Hello, and welcome to Talking Shop, a conversation with educational leaders. My name is Mike Randolph, and I'm the proud principal of the Leesburg High School, and I'm joined by my co-host, Martin Avtuck, the proud principal of Middleburg High School. And today we are joined by the Chief of Secondary Schools and former principal of Oakleaf High School and Orange Park High School, Mrs. Treasure Pickett. Treasure, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. We were in the middle of some principals meetings and AP meetings, so um, that's a great time when you can meet with great leaders for the day.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm so excited to dive in and talk about how you lead other leaders and really what guidance you give for other leaders. And I can tell you that's something that I miss having your leadership. I had the opportunity and the pleasure to serve under Treasurer Pickett as the vice principal for 2 years. And can I tell you, I learned so much under you. So I'm just excited to dive back in and to get back into learning from you.
I am also a disciple from the Treasurer Pickett coaching tree at Orange Park. She hired me as athletic director. I was a teacher there, and then I had an opportunity for a long stint at Oakleaf High School as an assistant principal before I started principalship. Every time we talk about it, it gets shorter and shorter. But get to work with Treasure every day as my boss and mentor. So it's pretty cool to have you on, Treasure.
Yeah, and first of all, I'd just like to say, old dogs can learn new tricks. So I learned from you all as well. So I've grown by surrounding myself with good people like you all. So I thoroughly enjoy being a small part of your life.
Oh, trust me, you're much bigger than a small part of our life.
Absolutely.
But, I'm excited to dive in. So let's go ahead and dive in. And let's start by talking about your leadership journey. How did you get to your current seat? Kind of talk about your progression in education.
All right. Well, I started out in South Carolina and was teaching there and doing some coaching and got my master's in secondary ed because it was never anything I wanted to do except coach girls basketball in my whole life, never wanted to do anything else. So I'm like, okay, I'll get my master's, but I'm just going to get it in secondary ed because this is where I want to be. So we transitioned. My husband is from this area. So after we had Carson, my daughter, we moved back here. And I was blessed enough to be hired by Mr. Owens at Clay High School to coach girls basketball and teach PE. So again, a great place surrounded by some great people, Ron Riddle, Dave Mitchell, Robbie Thompson, those great people. And I'm telling you, we had some fun down there in that Clay High gym. There was a lot of volleyball.
I heard that's some epic volleyball games.
Yeah. A lot of instruction. We didn't roll out the balls because we were always playing. So a lot of instruction going on there, but I loved it. And then the county offered the opportunity to, I think I was one of the first cohorts where UNF came out to the district and you could take most of your classes out here. And actually, I think most of them were at Middleburg High School. And then you had to go back to UNF for a couple. So I just had to do like 24 hours because I had to get just my certification in ed leadership. I didn't have to get my master's since I'd already gotten it. So I went on and did that and then just kept teaching and coaching because I loved it. I mean, I just had the best job ever. And my husband kept going like, hey, we paid for that master's. When are we going to use it? So, and actually a funny story. I remember it was yesterday. I played in tennis leagues and things like that. And you know how you got to meet at the net and talk about yourself and stuff. So we were meeting there and I always was proud to say I teach at Clay High. I coach girls basketball. I love it. And for the first time ever, it was like, okay, that's not enough. Been there, done that. I need something new. So I was lucky enough that was when Fleming was opening. And so Orange Park High, Mr. Wingate was selected as the principal there. And since people were moving to Fleming, of course, it opened up quite a few positions at Orange Park. So I was lucky enough to find my way down to Keystone somehow and interview down there. And somehow impressed him enough to get the job as an assistant principal at Orange Park High and loved it. I mean, just learned so much. And it was, at that time, remember, there's no Oakleaf. So Orange Park's big school.
3,000 kids, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So worked also with Mike Elliott and, Ray Dukes and Jim Salem, some good people there. and loved every minute of it. And then I had worked with Mr. Broski. He was a dean and I think an AP at Clay High. And through the years, he got the job at Middleburg as the principal. So he interviewed, and I went to Middleburg then as the vice principal under Mr. Broski, and did that for a couple years and loved it. And then Mr. Owens, this is when Lake Asbury Junior was opening and Mr. Wingate was ready to transition. So Mr. Owens, who remember had hired me at Clay High, said, "Hey, got a couple options for you. I think you'd be a good fit at either. Which one would you love?" And so it was Orange Park High or Lake Asbury Junior. So we could get into it a little bit later, but you both know me, families first. Families first. And so I had a daughter that was in athletics and a husband coaching. So honestly, the time of high school worked better for my life. And I actually was very honest with Mr. Owens. And I said, look, first of all, I love Orange Park High. I've been there. I love it. But secondly, the time works better. I need to get to some games and things like that. And he was like, Treasure, when you make a decision like that, you make a decision based on all factors, and if family's that important and that what fits your life, then that means you'll be good at it. And so I'm like, here I come, Orange Park, and headed back to the Raider Dome and stayed there for, I think, 6 years. And again, no Oakleaf for a little while, and then Oakleaf opened. So we lost quite a few students, and wow, it was pretty nice there for a couple of years. I was like, okay, this is what a normal high school size looks like. And then when Mr. Broski got the assistant superintendent's job, they asked me if I would go to Oakleaf. And of course, beautiful school, new challenge. And of course I said yes, and went over there, and again, loved it. It's where Mike and I got connected, and he helped me through that first year of the transition to the Oakleaf way. And so stayed there. And then once Mr. Wingate left, being principals for the young folks. So, I was able to transition.
I don't know for the young folks anymore.
I don't know about that.
Go
Yeah, do
ahead.
you see all of this gray?
Whew, I'm telling you, but I was ready for, again, a new challenge and a new step. Being principal is a challenge every single day. And I'm telling you, if I had to go back to be principal again, I would be a new principal. I mean, so much has changed in just the 5 years I've been out. But at that time, what was happening is every day was a little different, but the things I was doing was the same thing. And after 11 years of doing the same thing, I was really ready for a new challenge. So was blessed enough to be hired by Mr. Broski again, and named chief of secondary right after the COVID year. And this is where I am.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for taking us through that journey. And I can tell you, you helped us transition when you came to Oakleaf. And that was such a nice transition for us there in our Knight family there. I was about to say our Jacket family. I'm here at Leesburg. So you said a lot during that time, but one thing that you hit on was your time as a coach and then transitioning from a coach to a leader. Can you dive into that a little bit more? Why do you feel good coaches make good leaders?
Which
and
seems
what
to be
qualities?
a theme on here as
Yes.
Oh, there is no doubt. And it angers me when people say, why do all the coaches get jobs as principals? Well, first of all, we know how to manage kids. We know how to be organized. We know how to structure time. We know how to communicate. We know how to communicate with parents. We know how to budget. We know how to fundraise. I mean, what do we not do when you're a coach? And so all of those, and both of you have heard me say this before, when you're a principal, you're a coach. It's just, you're a coach of a larger organization. Instead of a specific team, you're now coaching a whole school. You still have parents, you still have students, you still have teachers, you still have goals, you still have strategies. you still are finding ways to motivate people, to involve people. So it's just such a natural fit. Principalship is coaching. You're just coaching your school instead of your
100%.
team.
Mhm.
And that's why it's such a natural fit.
And I think you see that with coaches coming in, also having those difficult conversations, because you have to
Yes.
have it with kids, you have to have it with adults, and then you've got to be able to learn from those as well. I mean, I'm sure all of us, I look at myself, this is my 7th year as a principal, from my first year to now, even from, how I thought the chair
Yes.
looked. I'll never forget, like, there was this young lady at Orange Park who was so fired up, man. She was and I just said hello or did what, I don't remember what we did. And I saw Mr. Wingate come up and start talking to her, and I was like, man, he's going to give it to her. And he just walked up. All right, darling, tell me what's going on. And I'm like, hold on a second. It's like, dude, there's the secret. It's being able to take care of those things and have those conversations. Treasure, one thing that I've the absolute pleasure of working with you for years and learning from you, and talk about like your 20-80-20 rule, because it's something that I think it really will resonate with principals. We want our people to listen, and we want our leaders to kind of come out of it with like you'll watch Mike and I writing down the entire time.
I'm writing.
But this 20-80-20 rule really helps put it in perspective. Go ahead.
Right. And so I'm actually, good leaders steal things from other people. So if you're not looking to steal something to better yourself, then shame on you. But Jen Collins actually on a Leadership Freak, it's an email that comes out for leaders, and she had gotten an article, and it's a very short blog each day, and some of it's applicable, it resonates with different people. But the 20-60-20 is a mindset for no matter what job you have, because so many times, especially as principals, we can focus on the tough aspects of our job and the frustrations of our job, not just student discipline, but, teachers not doing, what you ask them to do, or parents not happy, or there's just so many things, and we can get bogged down in that. And so when I read the little blog, it talked about 60-20-60 and changing your mindset, because I'm not a self-help person. Like, don't tell me to stay positive all day. That's impossible. Okay. You got to have some downtime. Everybody's got to have their own time to waller in their frustrations. So the 20-60-20 is, if you recognize.
You can tell I'm not a math person. I said 80-20-20.
I didn't want to say anything. I was
Hey,
like,
hey.
120%.
Neither, Mike.
I didn't take college algebra.
Roll.
I didn't take college algebra 3 times because I was really good at it. Go ahead, Treasure. Sorry.
I just let it roll.
Yeah,
Thank you.
But 20% of your day, if you just recognize that 20% of your day is going to be tough, it's going to be spent in the things that you don't like to do. But if you recognize that and accept that, then when it happens, it's not as frustrating. And then 60% of your day is set up in routine things. The things you do every day, the duty that you do, the cafeteria duty, the walkthroughs you do, all those things are just what you have to do every day. And then the 20%, the last 20%, is just amazing experiences or times when those kids come out, those seniors, and they've passed the FAST test. Or when, a volleyball wins state, or when your football team wins a big game, or when a kid comes up to you and is excited about something, or a parent gives you a positive email or a compliment. Like, you need to have that 20%, and you need to appreciate and
100%.
waller a bit in that as well. So it helped me because, in my position now, I've filled a lot of phone calls and things, but I get to do other things as well. I get to mentor principals and go to principal meetings and learning walks. So when that parent, when my secretary says, this parent called, I don't go, I can't stand this job. I just simply now go 20%. 20%.
Yes.
And then I'm like, well, let me call this one parent back, and then I'll move on to the other things that I need to do. And then hopefully in the day, if the conversation ends good with a parent, that might end up being the best 20%. So it goes back because you cannot be positive 24/7 all the time. You have to understand you're going to have tough times. And if you can accept those tough times, then it's going to make the rest of your attitude a lot better.
You know, that acceptance piece of the tough times and just knowing that you're going to face them and not getting bogged down in the tough times, right? And really making it 20% of your day so that you can get to that 60% of your routine, so that you can get to that 20% of celebration. That's something I'm taking back. And thank you for reminding me of that so that I can take back to my team as well. Because I can tell you, especially coming off of the hurricane and just different things, it's easy for that first 20% to expand to 30%, to 40%, because you feel like, oh, you're behind. We've missed 4 instructional days. We have this to do. We have that to do. So just reminding ourselves and entering the day, accepting that we're going to have those tough times, but knowing that we need to make sure to find those positives as well.
And
Right,
also,
yeah.
like, it's contentious times right now. You're going through
Yeah.
it, it's election
Yes.
time. We're going through coming out of hurricanes. It's a tough economy. So hitting refresh right now on your email is you're rolling the dice. But like, I got
Yes.
like, okay, what do we got? What do we got coming in? But
I'll get on the phone and I'll go, okay, 20%, treasure, 20%, and then when I'm done with it, I put it aside. That 20%,
I've
hopefully.
started saving like I've got 3 or 4 positive just this week where it's like, all right, let's focus on this because it's so easy to get bogged down in that other 20, the negative. So I
And
totally get that.
sometimes you have to go find that top 20%, and you
Yes.
can do that. I mean, I know there was some teachers at Oakleaf that if I was having a rough day and needed something positive, I could always go into this teacher's class and just find something positive. So sometimes you have to find it, but you got to find it because otherwise, it's negativity can be contagious.
I've got
Well,
those
just think
teachers like
about
that,
it.
and I've got like I'll go to our Bronco building blocks. The kids there,
Oh,
you
yes.
walk in there like you're automatic rock star. So
Yes.
that's always good. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say for us, it's our Cambridge classes and our construction classes. We go in there and again, you see your scholars working with their hands and then learning at an elite level. That's that 20%. But I was also going to say, imagine if you go home just 80% full every day, right? Because you're only looking at the 20% negative in the routine. That's how principal burnout really happens. So,
Yep.
really
Good point.
looking and finding that 20%. So that's a perfect time to kind of transition to this question. So 5 years as a district leader, describe your transition from a school-based leader to a district-based
is
leader.
good.
And then, just what that looks like.
So I'm going to be totally honest and vulnerable here. It wasn't that I didn't want to be principal any longer. I just needed a new challenge. Okay. And you both are high school principals, and you know what comes with being a high school principal. Like, you're in charge of a lot of stuff, and you're the man, and you're the one, making the decisions and good, bad, whatever, most of the time we're pretty proud people and we're in charge of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So and a lot of people. So when I went down to the district office, my role changed a little bit because Mr. Wingate had a lot of athletics and things like that in his wheelhouse. So he didn't do as much of the curriculum. But then at the same time, we hired our district athletic director. So that went away, and I had a lot of experience or more experience in curriculum. So the 2 jobs were a little different, but in the transition, it was transition. So all of a sudden I'm in an office of 2 people and not in charge of anyone. And having been, a principal for 11 years, I was like, okay, what am I doing? Like, who am
war's
I?
over.
What am I?
I can
what is
imagine
my-
it being very quiet.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I realized I was Mr. Broski's assistant principal, because he's the principal and now I'm the assistant. And I was like, ugh, I don't know about this, This is different because I didn't have a lot of, at that time, responsibilities or had not learned my responsibilities. But as time wore on and I realized, okay, my role now is to mentor principals, secondary principals. Okay. So now, although, I evaluate them, but more I'm their mentor, their sounding board, their communicator. So then I found my niche again and said, okay, now I am in charge of people. I can lead. I was a little lost not leading for a little while. And that we were just coming out of COVID. And so a lot of it, was the OCO year. And it was just very odd. So then as we came out of that and I realized, okay, now I have a group of people to lead. I'm going to lead these principals. And the great thing is about that is that it's a lot like high school. You don't lead each teacher the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't lead each principal the same way. I don't lead Martin the same way I lead Miss Auguste, that I lead Lori Burt, that I lead Dustin James. So then I'm like, okay, I'm a leader again. Okay, I am leading people, helping people. It tends to be what I like to do, solve problems, help people. So I felt, I guess, significant again, or felt like I was a leader, but it wasn't an easy transition. That was for sure, especially with the OCO. We really weren't in school a lot anyway. And it was odd, but like I said, you find your footing, and now I've got the best job. I get to lead these secondary people and use some of my experience, but also, help them. If they don't have time to call somebody, call me and let me do the groundwork. Let me call the other department and see if I can get an answer. Or let me walk across the street, or let me ask Mr. Broski. So I sort of try to be that support for them as well.
Well, just
That's
having
awesome.
that thought partner in this game is so important, right? And not just leaning on other leaders as that thought partner, but leaning on someone from the county office as
So
well.
I like calling treasurer and saying, okay, here's what I'm thinking. And then if she's like, that's probably what I would do, then I'm like, okay, and it isn't
good
always the
idea.
same thing, but that's like, all right, I feel like I've solved the problem. Okay, I'm getting there.
Right.
Got a little,
Well, and as principals, you have so much in your brain. To think outside the box is difficult sometimes. And you both know that's why I needed assistance. I was like, guys, y'all got to help me.
Yep.
Y'all
Yes.
gotta bring fresh ideas, because I can get in such a rut and such a tunnel vision that I can't see or be creative. It's hard to be creative when you got a lot of weight on you. So this relationship is just, hey, give me your thoughts on it. Either have you done it before, or I need to listen. And sometimes Martin will say, he'll talk it out, and then he'll say, oh, okay, I got my answer. Just having someone to talk to, or something like that. Or like the other day, we were doing a situation and I was sort of like, well, what are you thinking? Then I'll tell you what I'm thinking. And then probably somewhere in the middle is
I like what you talked about, like OSS, because everyone's got their idea of what something happens. All right, this should be this 10-day recommendation. So
Yes.
treasurer would be like, all right, everyone on your hands, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many days? And then you put it out there.
We used to do that because,
Yes,
Mike and I, Nate, and we all have a little bit different perspective on discipline. And so if somebody said 9 days and I thought 3 days, I'm like, oh. So we would all meet in the cafeteria and like rock, paper,
Yes.
scissors.
Yep.
And you put out how many days. And, because there were 5 of us, we'd take the average. And usually that was probably, if you don't go extremes and go in the average, you're probably making a pretty good decision. So it's always okay to be vulnerable as a leader and ask for assistance and ask for help, because if you don't make the wrong decision, that's worse, so always, man, I don't mind saying, hey guys, let's get to, that's a team, right?
Yep.
Isn't that
Exactly.
a team? Hey guys, we need to get in my office. Let's go over this. Everybody has a little different perspective. And usually as a team, we can come up with the best decision. It's hard to make a great decision in isolation.
Speaking of teams, let's talk your Alabama football. Tell me
Man, I
about.
should have done this last year.
Ooh.
No.
I'm
So I'm
hurting.
intrigued. I didn't.
Or 2 weeks ago, right?
I
2
was-
weeks ago.
Never really but reading Nick Saban books and watch. Talk about your love for Alabama football and Nick Saban in particular.
Right. So my grandparents and all are from Alabama, so that started a long time ago. But I've read a lot of Saban's books and I follow him, and I just I like some of his philosophies, especially just like in coaching. He wasn't all about the external things. It was more about, let's get in there, let's do our job. You're going to do your job for you, and you're doing your job for the person next to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a team, and so you're not doing it just for yourself and your own gratitude, but you're working hard for your teammate. And he would always, that's what he'd always say, like in practice, like, guys, we don't have defense taking it easy and offense working hard, because you're not helping your offensive teammates if you're not going hard on defense. Like, we both got to push each other
Mm-hmm.
and challenge each other, which then makes the whole team successful and the unit successful. So we can't sit and be comfortable. We always have to be willing to challenge ourselves for yourself, but more for the guy standing next to you.
Absolutely.
That's one thing I like. Another thing I like, he said one time, because when some kids got in trouble at Alabama or wherever, sometimes we would dog these coaches when they wouldn't kick the kids off the team, and we'd be like, can't believe you let that kid stay on the team. And he responded one time, he goes, okay, would you rather me kick him off and him just go back to his hometown and not get a job and just hang out on the streets? Or I could rehabilitate him,
Yes.
I could help him, and I could get him to learn from his mistakes and grow and become a young man. In fact, there is an example of one of his
I
players
remember reading about it, and then I
got
remember
in trouble. And
Urban
then
Meyer was the same thing with a kid out of Daytona. He kicked off a team and ended up passing away. It was given those second chances. Nick says even like second, third, fourth, he wants to save the kid. So
this kid got in trouble, but Saban left him. You just don't leave them. They have to do
Of
have to
course.
do their consequences and stuff. But the guy ended up. He has a family now, and like his daughters went to Harvard, and they're a doctor, and he's like, look at what came of me giving this kid a second chance. Because I'm not gloating, but that's the mentality we have to have. We've all made mistakes.
mm-hmm.
We've all made mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
We have to offer opportunities for kids and players and things to grow. And then, one story that resonated me was when I think it was Henry Ruggs got arrested out there. I think he had been drafted by Vegas.
Yep.
Yeah, in Las Vegas.
Raiders.
Yeah, and he got in that car accident, and I think some other people passed away as a result and pretty much lost his life. But Saban came on and he was talking one time, and he goes, I feel for Henry, I really do. I feel for what he's going through. He goes, but I'm angry too. And somebody said, why? And he said, because he didn't have a friend that was strong enough to stand up and grab his keys and say, you're not driving. He goes, that angers me that there was nobody there for him to stand up. I know he's a football player. I know he makes a lot of money. So, be careful who your friends are. Do you have true friends that are going to be honest with you when you need to have that honesty?
Yep.
Because it could save your life. Or
Show me
do you
your
just
friends,
have
I'll show you your
people
future.
hanging around you because
Exactly.
of the money you have or the position you have or something like that? I thought that was a good story for kids. Man, have somebody, know somebody that, or talk to somebody about, man, I need you to be my friend. If I'm not doing right, I need an accountability partner.
Yes. Well, you know, we often say that love isn't just letting someone do whatever they want to do. You know, love is being willing to have those hard conversations and stopping someone from really damaging themselves. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and those are great traits to live by. So earlier, you talked about the importance of family first, especially as an administrator, and you kind of glossed over it. Your husband, Mike, is one of the most, if not the most successful soccer coach in the state of Florida, and Carson is represents USA Soccer and a professional athlete. So talk about, especially for the administrators listening, just the importance of finding that balance, that home-work balance.
Right. So first of all, I'm so glad that y'all invited me on here because Mike and Carson have already done podcasts. So as usual, you know, mom's number 3, bringing up the rear. So I greatly appreciate. I can now.
We brought you before Mike or Carson.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, so we're a very athletic family, and we've always been involved in athletics. But with just the 3 of us, we've always been there to support each other, and so it with my always. I think you all agree with my admin team. It was like, okay, I need you to come to work. Okay, I need you to be here. But if it's dad's take your daughter to school day, or if it's, they're in a play, I need you to be there, because that's so much more important. And as administrators, we see what it's like for children without any family or parents that are involved, and it's tough. So I'm sure you've all walked kids across for senior night that didn't have anybody that would come that night. Man, that just kills you. So, you know, I've always been a family first person. I'm lucky that I have a husband that understands as well, and that's a coach. I understand. I got lucky also that Carson went to school with Mike, K-12. So he would always take her to school. So I had that luxury. But, if I was going to be at work, unless Carson had a game somewhere or something like that, and I needed to miss, and tried, many nights driving to Tallahassee on Thursday at 2 and back on Thursday night, and then back somewhere on Saturday. But that's what you do for your family, but that's what you do for your school family as well, because as a leader, you should be the hardest working person at your school. Nobody should outwork you. So you want to make sure you set the example. But I was really blessed in that Carson and Mike went to school together for so long, and then I could meet them at games. And I was lucky to have teams that I trusted, that would be okay if I needed to miss a day or leave early for something. I always felt very comfortable leaving school and leaving it in the hands of my team, because they were very good. But I encourage you guys to, and moms out there, you have to take time for your kids. They have to see you there. You have to plan intentional time. In fact, as administrators, when we would do our monthly calendar, I was like, okay, everybody grab your calendar, and we go. I might say, well, I can't do this Tuesday because Carson has a game. And then Mike or somebody may say, well, I can't do this, or, and we all worked around it. And that's how we did it, so that not everybody had a Friday night. And then if you had something with your family, put it on the list.
First,
we mark you off, and then we all just pick up from there, because your family's going to be there a lot longer than your school is. So you have to keep family first, and I'm very proud of my family. Definitely very successful. So they've done a great job, and it's nice to be a Pickett. People either know Carson or Mike, and then every once in a while, they'll know Treasure. So it's nice every once in a while to go, hey, Miss Pickett, instead of, hey, Coach Pickett, or are you Carson's mom, or Mike? Are you Coach Pickett's wife?
So where's Carson plays in Orlando now?
Yeah, she's placed in the Orlando. Yeah, for the Orlando Pride. So we're pumped about that, but I'm very proud of the accomplishments that both of them have achieved, and just proud of our family and what we've done in Clay County, and hopefully we've contributed in some small way.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And then Karsten was at the Olympics this year. You got a chance to go over there with her. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah. She got invited to by Nike to be in a think tank over there, and so at my dream, I got to meet Dawn Staley.
Oh, that's awesome.
So she was there. Got to meet Serena Williams. She was there, and some people from Peloton, and Juju Smith that plays at USC. She's the next up and coming player out there. So it was great. So we got to go to Paris and spend some time with Nike in Paris out there. So mom benefits.
Not bad.
Not
bad.
Not bad. Not a bad gig. So this is one of my favorite questions that I love asking all leaders. As a leader, at the end of the school year, you're going to look to your best friend. You're going to look to Mr. Broski. You're going to say, we just had the most amazing school year possible. What has to happen over the next 7, 8, 9 months for you to say that in May?
Oh, man. That's a toughie. Okay, none of my principals go anywhere.
There you go.
I retain everybody. We
Uh-huh.
retain everybody. But the other thing is we've made the secondary team, I know, Mark, they rocked it this year. Our scores in secondary were on the move this year. And man, I am so proud of them and the work. We moved their cheese. They had to in turn move teachers' cheese, and they led and they did it. And the results with our ELA is just, man, because Mike, how hard it is to move that ELA.
Oh,
And
yes.
the work that secondary did this year, man, every time Mr. Broski puts those slides up, it is secondary, secondary, secondary. And so I am so proud of them. And so just to continue to push, and to continue to achieve for our kids, and then to retain them because I love them all.
Love it.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great group up in Clay County. I know Martin, and just so proud of Martin hitting that AA at Middleburg High School.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Back to back. That's huge. That means a lot. As I taught at Middleburg High School. I know you were an assistant principal at Middleburg High School. So, again, so congratulations, Martin, on that accomplishment. And again, it's all led by great leaders. So thank you, Treasurer, for really taking the time to really lead those secondary principals.
We talk about the school grades and A's, but when it boils down to it helps kids. It moves kids.
Yes.
Everyone contributes to school grade, not just those teachers that are in those tested areas, but you've got your CTE teachers those are the reason kids want to come to school. You've got your coaches that are the ultimate dropout prevention. You've got, your 11th and 12th grade teachers that are helping those kids grad. It's just, everyone has a piece of the puzzle. So it's
a team effort. There is no doubt. It's a team effort. And I'm telling you, ultimately you guys are evaluated or graded or looked, at grad rate. Because ultimately that's what kids
It's all about graduation.
That's what kids are come to school for all those years, is to graduate. And man, the graduation rate that we have and the work we do with kids and things like that now to help them, even when they come back, they come back, we're okay, come on, let's see what we can do for you. And it's all worth it on graduation night when mamas are crying and kids are, excited and jumping off the stage,
Air
even though you're
horns
holding
blasting.
your breath.
Yes.
You can't help it, man. To see the excitement of some of those kids that have graduated, Mike, I know you see it too. It is
Yes.
man, it's what that night is about, and the whole year.
Mike's taken his school from, they were like 68%, something crazy to now.
67%
67% to what?
projected 90% this
Oh,
year.
man.
So
Mike,
that's
that
the first
is
time in school history. So
That is fantastic. Both of you are just rocking it, man. I couldn't be more proud of you.
We
And
appreciate
what
it.
you're doing,
Thank you.
and the heart you have for kids, and your leadership styles, and all that you're doing. Y'all are both amazing leaders.
I
So
think it
don't
goes
forget to have some fun though.
We do, but I think we also need to come back and look at it, like talking about Nick Saban. You got a pretty significant coaching tree. How many leaders do you have as assistant principals that are now principals or have been principals?
Yeah.
We got 2.
Yeah, 7 or 8, I think. Probably 7 or 8 that, and got a couple that are ready, just waiting on that chance. And that is, Pete McCabe always was the one that loved that. And I think when we retired, we ended up getting him, one of those old apple trees, and you put that was pretty cool. And he loves that thing. So, it is a great sense of pride when you can see folks that have learned under you or worked under you a little bit, take some of, you have to take your own personalities, but just a little bit of what I learned from this person and a little bit of what I learned from this person, and mold yourself and your style. Because if you don't, each of y'all are different. Each principal I have is different. And if you're not yourself and who you are, you're not going to be successful,
100%.
And then you got to find the right school with the right personality, mesh those two together, and man, that's success.
Love it.
Absolutely. Well, that's where the magic is. Well, again, Treasurer, it has been an absolute honor to spend this time with you today. Thank you so much just for your continued guidance, your continued leadership. I know I am blessed to have served under your leadership. I know Martin will say the same, and we're blessed to have you on Talking Shop today. So thank you for taking the time.
All right, hold on.
Thanks for selecting me. I'm so honored.
Absolutely. You were on the top of the list.
On the short, yes.
Yeah, we had to get better at this before we got
Exactly.
you on.
We couldn't ask you earlier. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, I got one last question, okay? The book. Did you ever start the book?
Yes.
I do have the book.
The infamous book.
I do have the book.
What is the book?
Huh?
What is the book for our listeners?
The book is just unusual things that have happened that you go, man, I can't believe that happened. I need to write that down. And I started writing them down. So I've got some things in there that could be published. Of course, got a few things that couldn't ever be published. Yes. So,
Yes.
But yeah, they are some funny things that have happened, some unusual things that have happened, some great things that have happened, and some things you go, that just happened?
Hey,
no way.
Kids will never disappoint with their ability to surprise you.
Never disappoint with that.
That's for sure. So I haven't added too much to the book yet. I might have to bring it out with a new perspective now. So
there you go.
But it was definitely, it got to be where people'd say, like, when we met at the end of the day, if you have just a couple minutes, like, at Bust You, you meet at the end of the day to rehash, and somebody'd say, I got one for the book. And that's how you'd always start, and it'd be like, oh my goodness.
And I love that. And we do it here. Like you did the Rock at Oakleaf. I think we had a silly trophy at Orange Park, but like we do Bucky the Bronco, which started as a little toy figurine to I stole one of Reese's big horse dolls. So every person that leaves from our team, I've given it to him. Like Jay left, he's got the little one.
That's
Spencer's
awesome.
got the other one. But now we have like Miranda, who we're going to have on here shortly. She's made like this whole, stuffed animal Bucky, but that's the end of the week. Like whoever's got the craziest story or whatever, like we celebrate that.
Yeah, that's where the Rock came from. Yep. It was, and we on Fridays it'd be like, whoever had the craziest week or overcame the craziest week or the craziest story, they'd get the Rock, and then they'd have to do a little acceptance speech, like they were winning a Grammy or something, and then they were responsible for it, bringing it out the next week. But God, man, you have to laugh. If you can't have fun with your team, you spend
100%.
too much time with them.
Yes.
You got to have
You spend
fun.
more time with your team than you do your family a lot.
You got to have get-togethers. You got to have things you can laugh about. You can't take the job so serious that you can't laugh about some things and have a good time. So
agreed. Well, listen,
Absolutely.
we appreciate you being on here with us today, and we'll
Yeah,
have to get you
love
back
it.
on. It
All
was
right.
45
Absolutely.
minutes, but it felt like
that
felt
was
very quick. Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, this was Talking Shop, a conversation with educational leaders. My name is Mike Randolph, and I'm the proud principal of the Leesburg High School, joined by our co-host, Martin Aptuck, the proud principal of Middleburg High School. And we are so honored to have our guest today, the chief of secondary schools and former principal of Oakleaf and Orange Park High School, Mrs. Treasure Pickett. Thank you all so much.
Thanks again. Go Broncos.
Yes, go Jackets.